Well, good evening, everyone. I'm John Raymond with TIMESHARE Talks, and with us tonight we have Irene Parker, Wayne Robinson, Earl, and Faith Sharpe. And I'm really looking forward to this evening because this is the first time that I've ever been able to talk with Earl, and I understand that he's had an encounter with a criminal exit scam and some bad experience with timeshare in Mexico. And actually, Irene Parker knows Earl a lot better than I do, and I'd just like to give her the opportunity to do the full introduction.
Well, thank you, John. When we wanted to introduce our first guest, I couldn't think of a better guest than Earl because of what he has been through, and especially since he is one of 3 families that have reached out to me targeted by organized crime. And the family that reached out to me a few months ago, maybe 6 months or more from now, but it was so sophisticated that I ended up calling the Secret Service. And they owned a Florida timeshare. The resort, they never used it. The resort refused to take it back for many years. And in desperation, they took out an ad with a listing agency. And it's the same listing agency that Earl listed his Mexico timeshare with. And they were first contacted by someone who said they were a paralegal and that an attorney would be calling them, and they had a buyer for their timeshare. And so sure enough, an attorney called, or someone who said they were an attorney, and told them they had to wire $987 for a documentary tax stamp. And then after they did that, they received a call from someone impersonating a federal agent that said that they were the account was flagged, and he actually threatened that he was going to arrest them for wire transfer fraud. And to make the crowning glory of it was they received a 4th person involved with the scam that said they were with the resort and said, "We know seniors are forgetful, and we want you to know that we've accepted this contract." And with the threats of them being threatened to come to their home and be arrested is when I contacted the Secret Service. And they were really helpful with those phone calls, but their conclusion was that you should be glad that you only lost $4,000. Well, this was a 100% disabled veteran, Agent Orange exposed, and $4,000 was a lot of money to them. And the 3rd family, they have not fallen victim, and he is as committed as Earl is, as Earl will share his experience tonight about what he has been through. But there were also, I've received many complaints from Canadians, Earl and Faith, or Canadian residents, especially against Grand Mayan Vita Vidanta, where they were desperate to get out of their Wyndham Carriage timeshares when no one was allowed out for any reason, and they were told in Mexico that if they bought a Vita Vidanta timeshare, they would be released. But then all that Vita did was forward them to the same listing company that Earl and this other family. So it's really a convoluted, it's very scary. And I have here, if you can see it, this is a legitimate bank in Hong Kong. And the documents that these people received were so credible. As Earl said, he received the same type of documents. So with that, Earl, thank you, and Faith, and our furry guest, Raven, which we'll talk about Raven a little bit later on. But Earl, if you could please share first how you ended up getting upgraded into a problematic situation and then were contracted by these criminals.
Sure. Thanks, Irene. We started out in 2014. I was getting ready to release from the military. Like Irene said, I've got PTSD and amongst other injuries from the military. I was a military police officer for about 18 and a half years with Canadian Armed Forces. And so in February of 2014, we went to Club Sunset, Tres Rios Hacienda Tres Rios in Mexico as part of the SHARE program. Friends of ours did the SHARE program. So we were down there, loved the place, lovely laid out, met with a sales agent. We're told basically you're buying a little piece of heaven. How many weeks do you spend a year vacationing? Well, we said usually 2 weeks of, somewhere. And so 2 weeks, we'll send you a contract. The main thing is, if you do not want to upgrade at any point in time, nobody is going to come and try to get you to buy up. So great, perfect, not a problem, not having any notifications of any other problems. We purchased the 2 weeks. We ended up coming back in 2015, and as we were registering for our room on a Sunday when we arrived, the first thing we had was, there's a problem with your contract. One of the sales agents or one of the management team will be in contact with you throughout the week. So later on throughout that week, I believe it was a Wednesday, the nephew, so-called, of the manager for the resort came to us and said, head office has got some very, very, very big problems with your contract. You got a price point entry of level 1, plus the amenities that went with it, certificate of perpetuity, your flex weeks, the no blackouts. We're not sure how they managed to do that in sales last year. They're going to cancel a lot of things unless you upgrade. And the upgrade is into their group called La Herencia, which is a higher level than your entry level that you bought into. So trapped. You're there in the middle of the week. You don't know what to do. You can't reach out to anybody. What option do we have? We don't really have an option, not knowing that they really couldn't twist your arm in that sense. So we upgraded. When we came back in 2016, we were told that we needed to upgrade again, which would give us the benefits of they would waive the right to first refusal. We would get more corporate weeks. We would move into La Herencia 2, and we would be joining what they called the real estate shareholders group. And so that doesn't exist. We found that out afterwards. What that meant was if we decided to no longer want the timeshare contracts, they would buy that back from us at a marketing 25% for off the value of what it would be assessed at the time of us wanting to sell. So we didn't go down in 2017 because I had life-saving surgery. And so we went down in 2018. And when Faith and I registered, we asked them, we wanted to talk to somebody in the sales team about buying this back. The concierge looked at us both as if we had two heads on our shoulders and said, we've never heard of this before. So right at that point, we knew we'd been hoodwinked again. We met with one of the sales team members. They went to go get the manager. The sales manager came back, consistently was doing this with her hands, talking about what sort of deal she could give us on the marina, which we already had in our contract for access. Came out and said, we are not buying back current inventory at this time. We will be later. If you want to buy an insurance policy so that you can turn around and when you pass away, if your children, who are your beneficiaries in the certificate of perpetuity, do not wish to come down here, they will be given a flat fee for what your resort would be worth, and they don't have to pay anything up front. I think they were talking $5,000 to $6,000 for us to do that again in another upsell. We left there very, very discouraged because we told them we want out. This is all we basically want, is we want out. The place is lovely, but we've been just treated like dirt. We've been threatened. with removal of stuff. We've been told lies consistently right from the first contract, where they said you will never be told that somebody is going to come to you to do any sort of upsell if you do not wish to have an upsell. So for them, we even went to, in 2018, when we went back, we were presented with a 3-room suite, which is their dining area, along with 2 separate suites. As soon as I walked into the room, my PTSD was triggered, because some smells, as well as sounds and everything else, will trigger my anxiety and my PTSD. There was a severe amount of black mold on the ceiling in the shower in our room. We phoned the front desk to tell them that, and they sent down one of their maintenance people with the ladder, which he went and got, because he looked at the stuff on the ceiling, and he came back with a bottle of Javex and sprayed pure Javex and wiped it off and said, they're all clean. Our room also had, it's okay, Raven. Our room also had, she's just picking up on the stress, and that's what we're supposed to do. Our room also had, we're on the ground floor, so our room didn't have a door to the outside, where people from non-resort visitors basically could walk by, jump over top, and get access to our room. We phoned the concierge 3 times to have that fixed, and it wasn't fixed until about Wednesday that week.
Wayne, have you, do any of these tactics that you've heard sound familiar to you?
Yes, when he goes back to the resort, there's a separate sales team that only deals with owners. It's an in-house sales team. And their objective, there's only one objective. It's not to handle problems. It's not to listen to bitching and complaining. It's to make more money. It's a salesperson. Salespeople don't deal with customer service unless there's money in it for them. So every time they're going to go back, there's always going to be something to what's called upsell. I work for Sunset Resorts. I know the resort. I know the whole scam. It's a complete scam from my personal experience with them. The marina that he's talking about, they show you these beautiful yachts, and that's a scam too. It's a scam. So because you're going to go back and pay more than the average person. So what you need to look out for is when they start trying to upsell you, then that's a red flag. The problem that the Earls ran into is like you go there and who are you going to call? You know, who are you going to turn to? You have nobody to talk to. You're in the resort. They can actually call the police and have you removed from the resort, and that's the end of it. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no tourist agency that's going to assist you. So you're kind of caught in there. So the first thing they do when you register, they're going to call an in-house team and says, contact these people and upsell them. That's the purpose of them. The contracts in Mexico are not legal because nobody who works for the resort actually signs the contracts. So the salespeople do not work for the resort. The management does not work for the resort. The VLO officer, the person who helps with all your legal documents and all that, and gives you all the extra gifts and stuff to buy something today, they do not work for the resort. So it's not even a legal contract. Most of them, the jurisdiction is either in Mexico, Dominican Republic, or Panama. So if you have any problems, you can't handle them from Canada. You can't handle them from the United States. You can only handle them in Mexico. Likewise, you can just walk away because if they have an issue with you, you don't make any payments or whatever, they cannot cross jurisdictions into another country. It only stays where the contract says, Mexico, Dominican Republic, or Panama, and they're not even going to deal with it because they know it's not a legal contract. So what the Earls have gone through is many of the resorts in Mexico, especially Cancun, which is the biggest market in all Mexico, are going to operate the same way. You know, years ago, you buy a timeshare. It's a fixed week, and that's the best deal. That's the best deal. When you buy points, you have no control, and you don't own anything. And the only place that I know that sells a fixed week is Royal Resorts, not Royal Sunset, but Royal Resorts. You buy a fixed week there. That is your week every year. You pay your maintenance fee. You can come and use it and exchange it if you want to. And the amazing thing about Royal Resorts is that 30 years later, it's a 30-year contract. They'll give you 100% of your money back, or you can apply it towards another sale. but they give you all your money back. That's the only resort that I know, the most honest. We were told as salespeople, if you lie, you get fired. And I've seen it happen. At Sunset, if you don't lie, you get fired.
And Earl, go ahead. Let's go ahead and move on to the next phase of this, where you were targeted by this ring of criminals, and tell us a little bit about how that evolved.
When we got back in 2018, after our 1 week vacation, which was from heck, we basically said, what do? We got to do something here. We want out so desperately. We listed with 2 companies out of the States. They haven't done anything. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Faith ended up getting a phone call at her place of work. And the only people that would have known that that was her contact number was assigned and attached to the contract with Club Sunset. So what ends up happening is a company called Your New Tennessee contacted us and said, we have a buyer who is buying a block of contracts, basically, at Tres Rios with La Herencia too. They are from overseas, and they are willing to pay a lot of money for what yours is. We're going to do the assessment on what your timeshare contract is. They came back with a number which was very similar to the number that the sales agent in 2016 had provided us with on their workup sheet for the real estate shareholders group allotment for what our timeshare was. And so what ended up happening is we looked at it and said, that's probably very close. I mean, these guys are probably legitimate. We did a search for Your New Tennessee online, and I couldn't find anything at all. Nothing for the Better Business Bureau, nothing complaint-wise. There was nothing that popped up. And then we got a little bit further in. It was in September. They started sending us some paperwork, asking us for money to be wired. The broker was Title II Investments out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And they put us on the phone. They were probably both in the same room. They put us on the phone saying, we have this meeting, and we're talking with your broker. Oh, we need you to send this amount of money for the legal team in Mexico to start doing the paperwork. So we sent another allotment of money, and so on and so forth. Finally, they said, okay, the buyer is depositing money in a Mexican bank. And then, wait a second now, you have to pay federal taxes and state taxes. So wire some more, and then wire some more, and then wire some more. And by the time we were done, we were $57,000 American, or 70,000 Canadian with the exchange, in the hole. As Faith had said earlier, we got a document, much like Irene had posted, from a bank saying, your money is here. Here's the account number. Faith looked up online and found the bank number, not trusting their number that they sent to us, stating that I'm going to give them a call. She has one of her colleagues at work is from Mexico City, I believe, and so fluent in Spanish. He was talking with the representative of the bank, who confirmed the amount without us telling that person what the amount was. Within a week, when we phoned back, there's no such account, sir. There's nothing here. In between that, there was a supposed lockdown on the funds at the bank, stating that they were being laundered money, and that we had to pay $72,000 American to release that money. And we said, we can't do that. We're tapped out. We're done. There's no way we can do it. So Your New Tennessee came back with Title II Investments and said, we know of a bank in the Dominican Republic that will fund you the money to release the funds. If you take out a loan, and they will fund that loan, and they will send us the money. And then guess what? We would have been back into another $72,000 American this time, $100,000 Canadian. So the total would have been $170,000 Canadian. by the time it was done. And we just said, no, we're done. We can't do this. In the meantime, what I've done is I had contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation and reported to one of their senior agents as to what was going on. It came back to me after several emails that basically this was part of a $3.5 million scam by this company. I reported it to the Better Business Bureau in both Oklahoma City area and where Title II Investments was, and as well as Your New Tennessee. Then all of a sudden we started seeing pop-ups concerning Title II and Your New Tennessee being scams. There was a local news channel down there that actually did a widespread bulletin on the Your New Tennessee scam. Oklahoma really didn't do anything. They just got back to me as the Attorney General and said, guess what? There's nothing there. They're not registered in the United States to do business. We don't know where they are. Sorry, we can't help you. So since that point of losing the 70,000 Canadian or 52,000 American, we've been actually targeted unsuccessfully by 4 other companies. Cub Alliance is one of them. Your Boston North End Realty is another one. Irene, you have the secondary one that hit us, and we're dealing with one right now, of which I will remain nameless so I can gather as much information to provide to you, Irene, at a later point, and to other people, just to warn them. The biggest thing is, with COVID, their source of monies for corruption have been cut off. As soon as that veil is lifted, that shark-infested waters are going to be ripe with people that are going to go down, and they're either going to return with their contract and they're going to get hit with an upsell, or they're going to walk in on their vacation thinking, finally, we've been locked out of everything for a vacation for 1.5 years because of COVID. Finally, this is a chance to unwind and just enjoy ourselves, sit by a pool in a warm place, and the sales teams are going to be there to pick them off one by one. And the sooner we get this information out, comparable to our losses, hopefully nobody has anything this grave. But because we've survived, because we're strong in our marriage, some people may not be. And that's my concern. Like I say, I have PTSD. It weighs heavily on my mind some days, and some days I try to put it out of my mind. So for us to tell our story and our experiences, both with the sales teams and then with being targeted, it basically gives me some sort of therapy in dealing with this. Plus, I also know that I'm going to be able to possibly help somebody avoid all this.
Yes, and one of the reasons I do this is it just is heartbreaking to see veterans and especially active duty service members that are harmed by timeshare. I know of a Navy veteran who had to file for bankruptcy after being upsold to $2,700 a month in loan payments, and a 100% Agent Orange disabled veteran who was upsold to a $170,000 loan, and another 100% disabled veteran on the West Coast that filed for bankruptcy because they said they were promised things that weren't there. So I really appreciate your service, and it's not easy to share stories about being victimized, and it's not easy to talk about PTSD. And the reason that I do this, I won't go into it, is because I also suffer from PTSD, and this helps me with survivor guilt. So next week, John, we have another guest that has some interaction with the military as well.
Yes. Well, thank you all for sharing tonight. This is great information. Consumers really need to hear this. Thank you, Earl. It's so helpful. Thank you,
Can I
Wayne.
make one last comment?
Oh, yes, Wayne, please.
Okay. As a former timeshare salesperson, when you go into a timeshare presentation, that person has steps that they have to go through. And the first thing is the greeting and the warm-up. They are going to be your best friend.
Yep.
They are going to be your best friend. You're going to trust them. There's no way these people are going to lie to me. There's no way. They're so nice. They got such a nice background and all that. That is their job. Never buy from a resort, okay, on the spot. Never. If you're going to buy from anybody, look at the timeshare industry, then I would buy from a reseller. 100%. You get plenty of time to look at the products, compare to other places, and you can buy deeded weeks if you want, or points. I'm going to say deeded weeks because you know what you're going to go. You know where you're going to go to every single year, and you own something. When you have points, you own nothing.
Thanks, Wayne. That's really puts the icing on the cake. So next week, we are going to have a volunteer Air Force veteran, Adam Siler, come and share with us, and we're looking forward to that. Once again, all of you, thank you so much, and we're going to sign off now and see you again next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John.